Thank you very much. My guess is most of the audience is from Europe, so it's right after lunchtime. Thank you for coming back to Data Minutes in 2022. And we're going to talk about how to manage the SQL Server Error Log, something that's often forgotten and doesn't become critical till it's too late. So let's get started. So what is the SQL Server Error Log? It's basically a bunch of files that SQL Server writes information to. So the name error log is very misleading because only a very small portion of the content is actually errors. But the problem is that's the small portion you want to be able to read when something went wrong. And what this session today is about is to give you a couple of tips how to ensure that you can read what you need to read when something goes wrong, and a little bit how to do it. Yeah. As I said, lots of noise. So who else besides SQL Server can write into these files? And the unfortunate answer is everyone, because Microsoft has an extended stored procedure XP log event that takes two parameters that everybody can use to write there. So I've seen machine systems where people massively misuse that. Also, there's a bunch of trace flags. If you enable them, then SQL Server becomes really chatty in the error log. And this might prevent you from seeing the actual errors. So, bear with me. Are there other logs except the SQL Server error logs? Yes, there is for the agent and full text search. Yeah, and we will cover them also. They're less flexible, but they're still there. So, how to read it from the outside? So you can't get into SQL Server. You need to know what's wrong. Where do I find these error logs? Yeah, and they are in wherever you installed SQL Server's binaries, somewhere near there. Yeah, so if you clicked next on the installation, you would find it in this path. Yeah, so the first 2-3 sections are the installation path. Then, depending on the SQL version, is a different if it is a different text there. This is an example for SQL 2019. And then you have the instance name. If you don't specify an instance name, if you run on a default instance, it's a string MS SQL Server there, and then MS SQL and then log. This is where you can find them, every machine. If you have multiple instances, that works just fine because the instance name would differentiate where they go. Yeah, and then there's lots of files in there. So we have the files for SQL Server. We have the file for the SQL agent, full text search, which has two files, one for the starting, the other one for later. And in the first line, I marked the file names that have the most current data. Yeah. This is error log without any extensions, SQL agent.out, then FD launch error log, again without any extensions, and FD no extension. And then some of these error logs get cycled when SQL Server gets restarted or the machine gets restarted. So SQL keeps several copies, which by default is 6 for SQL Server, 9 for the agent, 6 for the launcher, and 8 for this FD file. Yeah, consistency is nothing than a foreign concept to Microsoft, but okay, we're there. What I like to do on all my machines, I create a file share called SQL log $, on the memory that points to exactly that folder. This makes it super easy. I see there's a problem. I type the cyber name log and I'm in that folder. I don't have to search for it. So that's very, very helpful. So, and then it's regular text files. You have your favorite text editor installed. Notepad is usually on the servers. You can use the type command in or some PowerShell to read it. Okay. When you're inside SQL Server, there's SP read error log stored procedure to do that. It has a total of 4 parameters that you can use. The first parameter is the number of the error log file, and the second one is which log do you want, SQL or a SQL agent. So you can read the current one, the next one that is 1 older, 2 older, up to 99 if you reconfigured it to store up to 99. Other than it's only to 6. And the 1 means I want SQL Server Error Log. If you don't specify any parameters, this is the one you get. Yes. If you want the agent one, you change the 1 into a 2 and you get the same, and Same thing with the numbers up. The second two parameters, so number 3 and 4, are like kind of filtering patterns. So if you put the word Microsoft in there, you would only get error logs that have the word Microsoft in that line. Every other line is not read in. And if you specify 2, then it's like the first one and like the other one. So it has to have both the words Microsoft and server. And the reason I chose these examples is these two words are in every error log, so you should always get back one row, at least, or more things. So this is one way. This is SP read error log, and then as a second one, XP read error log. The first two parameters are exactly the same, so they specify which file for which error log. Number 3 and 4 are kind of the same, but they need to be Unicode strings. Otherwise, you get a nasty error message that the parameter doesn't match. So don't forget the ends in front of your literals to make them Unicode. And then they have number 5 and 6 that specify the date range you want to have information of. Yeah. In all these places, since you might not have two search criteria that you want, you can place a null that gives you like in any kind of thing. That works also for the time. So if you want from the beginning of time, whatever, when the error log file started till a certain point of time, you could make this one a null. Yeah? So this works just fine, like in this example. Yep. So that would give you everything up to that date. But why do you want to change the settings? Because usually Microsoft is really bad in choosing default settings, and this is one of the things. Yeah, we want to ensure that the error log captures the problems we have, and there are multiple problems you can have, and we want to protect the system from too much logging data. Yeah? I've seen systems that logged gigabytes and gigabytes every day because someone turned on like to write the deadlock graphs into the error log, and that can easily produce gigabytes a minute. Yeah? On the other side, if you have a problem that like SQL Server is bouncing like crazy, you might want to prevent it from, you might lose the files. Why? What can we control? We can control the number of files we keep. The default is 6, the maximum is 99. Yeah? And we can specify how big an individual file can become. So to pick the right numbers, let's look at when is a new file started? Every time SQL Server restarts. If you reboot the box, if you stop the service or start the service, a new error log is started and the other ones are renamed. Or if you call the procedure SP cycle error log. Or when the maximum size of a file is reached, and by default they're unlimited, so that never happens unless you change it. Yeah, I have a SQL agent job that calls SP cycle error log every day. Yeah, so every day I start a new error log. That makes it much easier for me to find problems, so I don't have to sift through all of them. Yeah. Why limit the size of the file? They can go very big. And have you ever tried to open a 10 gigabyte text file? It's not going to go well. Yeah, so what I do is I size them between 512 megabytes and 2 gigabytes, depending on the size of my machine. Basically, the more memory I have, the larger I can give the file, because I'm sure I can open that file. So setting the number of files is done by writing it to the registry. This is an example. You specify here how many you want, and then it will create that. So putting it way higher than 6. Why? Because if SQL Server starts bouncing for any reason and start, stop, and you can't get there fast enough to stop it, you might lose the original error log if you don't have enough of them. I think it's 40, something in the 40s. You might be able to get there. If you have the space, set it to 99. There's no harm. Yeah? The second one, maximum file size, same store procedure, just a different key, and you will get all these in the GitHub from the event things. So when you set that to these two roughly numbers, then you ensure that you're not overwhelming the drive with too much data, because at some point they get recycled. On the other hand, if you have a bouncy problem, you still have enough files. And this is one of the reasons I'm also doing the daily cycle, so that I keep the number down. So I'm guessing we are right on time. And as William said before, if you have any questions where there's no time here, just email me. And as I said, I will send them the slides to upload in the next couple of minutes. Thank you very much.